What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Of course, we are live streaming from the DSM Media YouTube page, Twitter page, and the Twitch page. Make sure you guys are subscribing, hitting that like button on every video. Make sure you're tapped into all the content that we got going on the DSM YouTube page here. As you guys can see, I'm accompanied by some very great guests per usual. I got my guy Dylan Davis over on I guess that's the left of me or the right of me. Not just good with directions. Right. I got JD Oracle right underneath of me, and I got my man Phil Stiefel right to the corner down. I'm done with directions here. Got Phil joining the show today as well. We're going to get into some NBA Finals talk. We got the Suns and Bucks squaring off game one tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time there. Guys, welcome to the show. If you guys want to just kind of introduce yourselves, let everybody know who you are, what you got going on, and then we'll dive in here. Dylan, what's up, my man?
What's going on, Scott? Happy to be here. I'm currently on vacation, so cheers, Phil. Cheers, Scott. Cheers.
Hey, you always know I always got a drink ready to go here. Corona won't sponsor me, so I'm going with this.
And I'm just focused on DSM Media, guys. So like Scott said, please go hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. Hell, we're on TikTok. So go follow us on TikTok for clips of all of our shows. And yeah.
And what about you, Mr. JD Oracle? Welcome to the Scotty Talks NBA show once again.
Man, I've been on this show so many times, man. I'm like your co-host.
Hey, you are. You like what would you call it? Like a
reoccurring guest. I'm a reoccurring role.
There we go.
Yeah, man, I'm JD Oracle, or JD the Oracle, for those of you guys who know me on the streets. I have a show called Sneaker Savant, also on DSM, as well as a show called UFO that we have on Thursday nights with Carmen Terrence. And we DSM all the way. Let's get it.
And to the biggest free agent in the game right now.
This is dude, I was a free agent for like 30 seconds and I already got a show booked. I'm on this show. Literally, this is going to be my night watching TV with the wife. But the free agent is here because the NBA Finals starts. I mean, actually, I am giving up watching the match right now. And you guys, if you don't follow golf, you have no idea what the match is. But it's just a charity golf event between Bryson and Phil and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And it was must-see TV, the banter. Phil Mickelson has the biggest personality I've ever seen on this. They must be drinking behind the scenes. I don't know. But, yeah, as they said, I'm a free agent. I'm Phil Stiefel. But, yeah, that's right. As Mustaine says, free agent. That's right. I'm just going to go with that. I might change my Twitter handle to free agent for a little while.
You should.
I think that would be very dope.
I got nothing to promote other than follow these guys and all their accounts because these guys are the best.
I appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you for tuning in, Jason. I appreciate you, my man. Always checking in on us. I appreciate that. Guys, let's dive in here. We got a couple different topics to talk about, mostly focused on the NBA Finals, but we'll get into a few other things here. What I wanted to start the show off with, we've got a chance to watch all of the playoffs play out so far, all the way up until the NBA Finals. We got two teams left, favorite performances throughout the playoffs. It can be a star, it can be, a role player, like guy like Terrence Mann, for instance, for the Clippers. I loved what he did for the Clippers. Any performances that just really stood out to you from the playoffs so far? Can be from teams in it, teams out of it. JD, I'll toss it to you first, my man. Do you got anybody that you've just been super impressed with?
Of course. You know I do. Of course. The point guard, man, 41. What you mean? Who I got? I've been saying the Phoenix Suns are going to go to the finals since the beginning of the season. Anybody that gets Chris Paul on their team, they have a chance. They have a snowball chance in hell. Chris Paul, man, turned the clock back. 36 years old, 41 points, 31 in the second half in clutch time. Sent my boy Pandemic P back to the crib, back to the house, and yeah. So I mean, I'm all in on P on my boy, the point guard. If you don't know who that is, it's Chris Paul. But in case you didn't know, but he's Chris Paul. He's got these young boys playing, man. Everybody's looking like the favorite, man. And I know people are gonna say Giannis is, Giannis, but the Bucks, and I want Middleton to win because he's from South Carolina. He's a South Carolina dog like myself, so I would love for him to get him one, but it's gonna be hard up against CP, man. He hungry, man.
Yeah, and we'll get into that matchup later with the Bucks and the Suns, but it is an intriguing matchup. And JD, I'm gonna give credit where it's due, bro. Like you called it from the beginning of the season, honestly. And not a lot of people. There were people saying the Suns would make the playoffs, but not be championship contenders in that elite category. And here they are. Like they've arrived. And let's be honest. Chris Paul missed some time. They were able to fight through a few games there without a healthy Chris Paul. You saw guys like Cameron Payne step up. So that team is more than special, is what I would say. And if I'm the Bucks. Obviously, you guys have seen my takes on Twitter. If I'm the Bucks, I would be a little worried about playing the Suns in the finals here. But I'll toss it to you next, Phil. We'll kind of just go in order there. Favorite performances? Any guys that you just really liked what they did in the playoffs so far?
Yeah. First off, before I answer it, I got to agree with JD because honestly, I think I was on your show talking about, or maybe another show, about how I didn't want the Sixers getting Chris Paul in the offseason. I didn't think he would have been the fit that took us over the top. But boy, was I wrong, because what he's doing in Phoenix, I mean, I'll say somebody else because JD said him already, but I mean, he's performed way above expectations for a 36-year-old point guard. But the one thing I do remember saying on your preseason show, Scotty, was that there's certain stars, and there's a long list of them, the Donovan Mitchells, the Nikolai Jokic's, the Jamal Murray's, the Ben Simmons, guys that are stars. Will they do something in the playoffs to turn them into superstars? And I think the one that did it, and I think they'd actually be playing the Suns tonight if he didn't get injured and have to play that last game, was Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young carried a team that we all thought would lose to the Knicks. Then we thought they'd lose to the Sixers. And they barely lost to the Buccaneers. What am I thinking? I got the freaking Tom Brady match on. The Tom Brady match on behind me here, and I'm thinking of Tampa Bay Tom right now. What he did with the Hawks. I mean, he proved that he's not just a star.
Yeah,
he's a superstar. And there's another guy still playing right now that's doing the same thing. But I'll leave that for somebody else to talk about. But Trae Young showed that he is more than just a star that's going to disappear come playoff time. So,
yeah. And just to follow up on that, Trae Young, he's at the bottom of my list because I have a lot of disdain towards him for what he did.
I agree.
Respect where it's due.
You can't diss anything that he did. I mean, he led that team over a much more talented Sixers team to victory, and he was injured. So,
and Bucks beat them game one. You know what I mean? Like, beat every single team that they played in their house.
How many times do we lose on home court?
Yeah, exactly. But Trae Young, man, he is a superstar. His game is so, like, I was watching him during that Sixers series, and every game you just worry because it's so hard to stop him with the way the game is officiated, and he uses it to his favor, rightfully so. But yeah, Trae Young, 22 years old, and on top of that, right? Like that's what's crazy to me. This guy's just getting started. But I'll toss it to you next, Dylan. Did you have anybody that you kind of just loved what they were doing this playoffs?
Yeah, so just really quick sidebar here for my baseball people. If you didn't know, the Phillies are in Wrigley right now, taking on former Philly Jake Arrieta, who gave up a grand slam in the top of the first. So it's 4-0 Phils. And he's got one out right now in the first. So for all the people worried that Jake Arrieta would get his revenge on the Phillies, that's not happening tonight. But yeah, so I got to go with the guy that JD referenced earlier, and no, he's not playing in the finals right now. But that's Playoff P. Talk about a guy who changed. You shake your head all you want. Playoff P showed up this postseason run. No Kawhi Leonard, no running mate. I know Reggie Jackson played out his mind. You referenced Terrence Mann earlier, Scotty, for the couple games that he had. But Paul George had a great postseason run through 3 rounds, sorry. And finally showed up in the playoffs, because that was a running joke for a very long time. Like, Paul George is that superstar, all-star borderline as Phil was just talking about. And he had his struggles ever since leaving Indiana in the postseason, and he showed up in this one, even though they didn't win.
He was on my list. He was on my top 3 list here.
Yeah, man. And
that was my list as well. Chris Paul was number 1. Trae Young was number 3. Paul George was number 2.
There you go. That's
we're
all
on the same page. That's always a good time. But Paul, playoff P, Paul George, pandemic P, whatever you want to call him. I think he gets some very unnecessary hate. It doesn't make sense to me all the time. There's plenty of stars that, choke in the playoffs. I mean, we see it right here in Philly. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I never get the disdain towards Paul George, man. He was putting up, 27 points a game in the playoffs? I mean, what was he doing wrong? I don't get it. But just to give you guys a couple names on my list, I did have the Trae Youngs of the world. Of course, Devin Booker. He's somebody that we'll get into later, but his game is so polished. Like the mid-range game is just like automatic. Like it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like I've seen Joel Embiid, and I've said this about Joel Embiid as well. When you get into like that mid-range, anything inside like that free throw line area is just automatic. But Devin Booker is doing it from, a much smaller frame. And it's very, I know people don't like these comparisons, but it is very Kobe-esque in some of the moves that he be using on the court. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Drew Holiday, obviously another guy that I've been super high on. He didn't have like the best shooting postseason, but he does literally everything else, and he still puts the ball in the bucket. Some other guys, Reggie Jackson, Donovan Mitchell had a crazy run there, but his team just couldn't help him out. And then, like I said, I had the Trae Youngs of the world. Let's go to the other side of it. Disappointments throughout these playoffs. Don't you guys all pile up on one guy here either, okay? Dylan, I'll toss this to you first. We'll go back the other way. Any disappointments that kind of stuck out to you in this playoff postseason here?
Oh, that stuck out to me. Let me see. Probably the guy that's name is on the back of my shirt, being the current point guard of the Philadelphia 76ers, future TBD in this city. But Ben Simmons, how could he not be number 1 on your list with that second round series against the Atlanta Hawks? And not the only reason, but the biggest reason that the Sixers are on vacation right now and that Joel Embiid has been spotted down the shore. Outside of that, someone mentioned the Heat earlier. It's not so much disappointed because, I don't know if you guys know this, but Jimmy Butler worked extremely hard. Like, I don't know if he made that aware, if everyone was aware of that, but he said he was stupidly ready for the playoffs and he got swept in the playoffs. But I'm not really disappointed about that. Other than that, I don't think it's individuals. I think it was just kind of the league as a whole, and that's just the injuries, the kind of the watered down playoffs right now when you have all these stars being injured. And, it starts here in Philly with Embiid, but, he played through it. But you have the Trae Young, the Giannis injury, the AD, Harden, Kyrie, so on and so forth. It really kind of watered down these playoffs. And, it sucks because normally in the postseason, especially in the NBA, the stars come out to play in the postseason. And they're what you remember. Yeah, role players hit shots sometimes that stick in your memory, but the stars come out and dominate. And you haven't really been able to see that. Obviously, you're seeing that with Phoenix and Chris Paul because as Chris Paul was on the COVID list, but he stayed healthy. But I guess just the injuries and the watered down version.
Yeah, I actually think that's a great point. I mean, we could go over the injury list all day, but yeah, it created some very watered down playoffs. I mean, you're looking at the Eastern Conference Finals where you had the Bucks playing without Giannis and Atlanta Hawks playing without Trae Young and playing each other in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that just makes for not the best version of basketball. Obviously, like you said, Dylan, the stars need to play in the playoffs. Phil, I'll toss it to you next. Any guys that you have in mind?
Well, I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names and an entire team. The entire team being the Heat. But again, like you said, I mean, you notice the Heat and the Lakers both had early exits from the playoffs. Again, worn down the short off season. So I kind of wrote them off. The next name I put down as a potential, again, and I'm writing this name off too, is Julius Randle. There were people jumping all over the Knicks and Julius Randle to crush the Hawks. But again, Julius Randle should never have been put in the position to be the number 1 guy with the Knicks. So he deserved most improved player award, but on the flip side, he shouldn't have been the star. So you can't really blame him for the Knicks collapse because he shouldn't be put in that position. Obviously, Ben's on the list, but we're not going to talk about Ben.
Right.
So the same reason that I say that I was looking at people like Trae Young and another name that you guys didn't talk about for most surprising or how good they did was Devin Booker. You know, those guys proved that they're not stars, they're superstars. They're moving towards that elite status. You said that Donovan Mitchell, you know, as a you know how good he did. I'm going to say that he didn't do enough, and he disappointed me. I'm going to say the Joker didn't do enough, disappointed me, getting ejected from an elimination game the way he did. And I know we want him for Ben Simmons so much, but what has Dame done in the playoffs? I know his team is part of it, but there's the difference between being a star and being a superstar, elite, top 5 player that some of these guys think they are. And it comes playoff time. That's when they decide whether that elite top 5 guy. There's a lot of guys. I'll say Mitchell is my number 1 guy because who did they face in the playoffs? He could have easily carried that team, but he didn't. He came up short, and it's disappointing to me.
That's fair. Especially, you know, when you're looking at a Clippers team without Kawhi Leonard, and they got gentleman sweep by them, or no, they lost. They won the first 2 games, so they lost in 6. But still, I think that's a great point. I just wanted to point out the Cameron Payne. So we are actually talking about the disappointments here. So I know you're not talking about.
He's definitely behind. He's definitely talking about them.
Yeah, because Campaign, Terrence Mann, Reggie, those are all surprises that we did mention. So definitely in agreement there. JD, I'll toss it to you, bro.
JD's been smirking down there.
I'm loving this. This is my best part. You know, I love positivity, but I love negativity too. You got to have the contrast, baby. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm not taking the low hanging fruit. Leave my Sixers alone. All right, it was a disappointing year. We know that already. Leave my boys alone. Let my man live where he at right now with his old lady or whatever. All right. So right now, what I'm gonna take is I'm gonna say Pandemic P, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because he's not alone. In those series, Paul George didn't carry them. He had a game where Terrence Joanna Man had a big game. Crunchy Black had a big game. $1 Million Baby Beverly had a good game.
$1 Million Baby.
You know what I'm saying? I got nicknames for all these dudes, man. You got you know, they got some guys, man. You know, I'm not gonna get into it. Marquise Morris, the second best twin out of the 2 twins. You got some guys. You know that he got some guys that were with him, and so he wasn't alone. It wasn't like he was Trae Young. You know, he wasn't just completely carrying the team. So I'm gonna give him that, and he did not lose the moniker of Pandemic P, Playoff P. How about we just call him Paul George till he wins something? How about that?
Yeah, right? That's fair. That's where I'm at.
Paul George until he wins something.
What about that game 5 or was it game 6 when he like literally willed that team out of elimination that game?
That's cool, but Terrence Mann saved his ass the game before that.
Yeah, but you can't say that though because you mentioned Trae Young, and I believe Trae Young shot 5 of 23 in an elimination game 7, and Kevin
Trae Young did other things. He distributed. Yep. He kept that team alive,
and he's banged up. Like Paul George is fine.
Severely banged up.
Paul George is fine, and they were almost like trapping dude. Like nobody's trapping Paul George. He just buns. And then on top of it, I would like to say yeah, I'm gonna throw this out there. Just go get real disrespectful right here. So my 1A for disappointment is LeBron, big shoulders to carry his team on James. That guy, the big shoulders to carry my team. This is what I have these big shoulders for. Only thing you're carrying now is promotion for Space Jam. Get out of here. You're not the GOAT. Stop telling people you're the GOAT. You're not the freaking GOAT. You are the best of this era, but you are not better than my man, Mikey J. And I call him that.
Has he ever said he's better than Michael Jordan, though?
Remember, he said,
I've ever heard those
yes,
words. I am better than Michael Jordan.
He hasn't. But to JD's point, the great ones don't have to promote themselves.
Exactly.
He said a lot of that. Remember when it was the bubble, right? When they won and they were doing the ceremony, he was talking about give him his respect. Bro, what do you mean? You have a freaking cult that follows you and swears.
You've been to 18 championships. Like my thing about LeBron James, and I'm gonna say this and I'll be done, I promise, is when LeBron James said, when we won this, I realized I was the GOAT. Like you didn't win when he was in Cleveland. He won. He's like, when I realized that's when I was, you didn't realize shit. You just realized that I can go to a bunch of these things and not really win them all or win half of them, and then they'll still call me who I am. Listen, if you want to talk to me about some GOAT shit, do not put LeBron in that shit. Like, period. He's not aligned with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had complete dominance. And I know he's following behind. You know, he's got Space Jam coming out. Everybody's looking super excited. My kids are probably going to go. I won't go, but my kids will. We're probably watching on like HBO Max. But, you know, I get it. He's just not the GOAT. He was a disappointment to me in the playoffs, even without AD, because they still got a gang of dudes that they put around this guy so he can win, and he couldn't win.
This is very off topic. It's not off topic because it's what JD's talking about. But you guys ever find it a little weird? Because I agree with JD. Like MJ's my GOAT. LeBron, can't stand him sometimes, but like it's not a little weird. Like they're the 1 and 2, right? The 1A, 1B, and where War's number is making the second of a movie that MJ starred in years. Like, it's not weird to anybody that these things keep occurring.
It's super weird. Then because
who said that there's like this weird cult following for him? Was it you, Dylan? Yeah, I see. I'm in that cult. See, I'm an MJ. I'm a LeBron guy, so I don't like LeBron. But let me tell you something. He's the second best basketball player of all time.
It's a far distant second,
but it's not close on who's 3. He is definitely the second greatest basketball player of all time.
I agree.
There's no doubt about it.
But Phil, I can respect that because you know what I can't stand about that cult that I'm talking about? They take it as disrespect that he's the one you say he's not the GOAT. They take I just told you he's the second greatest basketball player to ever walk this earth.
You guys are a bunch of babies. Were you even paying attention when he was playing Michael Jordan? Like, at least I was a teenager when Michael Jordan was in his prime. You know what I mean?
I don't want to tell you how old I am right now, but I'm just going to let you know I watched some games, bro.
Okay, so did I. I tried to be like MJ. But on the flip side, I give respect to LeBron James. The LeBron James is the greatest of this era, hands down. I put him ahead of Kobe. I get flack for that. But you know what? The guy is great. And I said, and I'll admit I was wrong, that I said the Lakers were the team to beat until somebody beat them. And LeBron let that team down because LeBron could have furthered his second GOAT status by carrying that team for sure.
Were you pissed off as a LeBron fan when he walked off the court the 2 times that he did?
I hate that when any superstar athlete, I've seen a few of them do it, whether it's a baseball field, a football field, or a basketball court. I get so pissed off when they do that.
I just want to make sure you was a real homie because that's real.
That makes me bitter because I never did that. I stayed and shook hands every time after every game. And I've been on a lot of bad sports teams. Never a winning basketball team. Never a winning baseball team. Never in my life. But I always shook hands after every single game.
Giannis is a go.
Giannis is a go. Interesting.
Look at Woj up there, man. Woj in the top corner.
All right, guys. So let's get out of the disappointments. You guys had nailed pretty much all that I had here. I had Ben Simmons. I had Kristaps Porzingis, actually. I think maybe you don't call him a disappointment, but I feel like he kind of solidified his fate that you are not the running mate with Luka Doncic. Like, he's out of there. I had Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. I had Julius Randle as well. I would almost be willing to call him maybe the most disappointed player out of everybody, the way people were hyping him up. I was one of them whenever we were coming out of the regular season there. He got that most improved player, and he played disgusting. Like, you talk about pandemic P. I mean, this is pandemic Joel. Like, whatever you want to call the cool name for him, he was terrible. But then I also had the Utah Jazz there. I thought they had a prime opportunity with Kawhi out. Like you said, Phil, didn't take advantage of it, and I thought that was a complete failure.
Can I ask you guys something real quick? Again, little sidebar here. Well, because we're talking about the Utah Jazz, and everyone here in Philadelphia is, wants to, there's thoughts of blowing it up, not blowing it up, but separating the 2 stars, right? When is Utah, is it time? Like, they have to blow it up, right? Like, how many years are you going to be a top seed in the West and everything, a regular season team, and you underperform in the postseason? They have to blow it up, right?
There's at least 3 teams that I could put in that category that need to blow it up.
How would you blow Utah up, though? Like, would you trade, Rudy Gobert, or would you, look into Donovan Mitchell?
You trade Gobert, in my opinion.
You trade Gobert, yeah.
Defensive player of the year? No way.
He wasn't the freaking defensive player of the year. Get that shit out of here.
3 times?
No. I know you're joking, but I don't want to hear it.
Like, who would want him, man? Like, does he have a max contract?
He does,
What
I
do you
think.
mean? Wait, look at my
Somebody
face.
would want him. Somebody would want him, I'm sure. But I mean,
The Ben Wallace of our time. Like, what do you mean? No.
Dude, he's
Franchise defensive player of the year. Like, he's gonna win it for his entire career. The way he's going, he's an unstoppable defensive player.
All right. I didn't bring up the Jazz to talk about Rudy Gobert's dumbass.
who's better, Clint Capella or Rudy Gobert?
Clint.
coin flip.
Clint. By far, Clint. And on top of it, because Clint can actually catch a oop. Rudy Gobert fumble it.
I don't got a quarter in my desk here.
Can we start calling? Can we really start calling? Can we start calling Rudy Gobert playoff R? I mean, pandemic R, because he started the whole shit. Like he's did we forget?
He's an asshole, man.
Did we forget? Did we forget that?
And then 100,000 lives are lost to the pandemic after you.
Wow. I really just opened a can of worms there, talking about the Jazz.
Yeah.
Hey,
I hate the Jazz.
We got
the most overrated and overhyped team of the last 3 to 5 years.
Sorry.
Hey, so before we get into our last segment, the NBA Finals preview, Ben Simmons, the rumor came out, Malcolm Brogdon in a first. I haven't got a chance to kind of go over this with you guys or anybody in reality. Sixers obviously declined. I don't think that Malcolm Brogdon in a first is enough, obviously. But I thought for a basement offer, as far as like the first like baseline offer where it can only go up, I would imagine, as competition creeps in. I thought it was a pretty good offer to start. You're never going to accept your first offer whenever you're doing, anything really. Whether you're selling a house, whatever you're doing, you're usually not going to take that first offer unless it really blows you out of the water. Kind of just wanted to get you guys' feelings on what you've seen so far as the rumors. We've had anything from Malcolm Brogdon to Colin Sexton, Kevin Love. I've heard like Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo. What the hell is his name? D'Angelo Russell. Is that his name? D-Lo.
Like rat out people in his.
I've heard the sign and trade rumors of like a Kyle Lowry and some other throw-ins. Obviously, we have the Dame Lillards, the Beals, the Zach LaVines of the world. And then the other one that came out today was the Kings. So apparently the Kings tried to center something around Buddy Hield. Sixers like, no, if we're going to do this, it's going to be centered around De'Aaron Fox. JD, I'll toss it to you first, my man.
How do you do this to me?
Yeah, because I know.
Wow, man, you just want to see me act up, man.
Got me, bro. So JD, I'm going to toss this to you first.
All right, man.
Anything that's caught your eye? How are you feeling about the trade Ben Simmons people, the trade machines, all of it?
It was a rough year, guys. Let me start by saying it. We already eulogized them a couple weeks ago. We did a good job, and they're better off where they are now. Like they're living a better life now. So let's just say off season goes the way we want it to go. The trade for De'Aaron Fox, if you can get him, I don't think it makes me cringe because we get a point guard, which we really, really need, a scoring point guard, a score first point guard to be exact. De'Aaron Fox has kind of showed himself since college. He's also a Kentucky guy, I'm pretty sure. So he's in that same. He's come from that same cloth of like the Bookers of the world. Some of those Kentucky guys are really shaking up the league right now, and the only other people that are shaking up the league worse than them right now is the Duke guys, which I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna throw that out there because I know that's for me and Scotty. But I just don't know if I can feel safe letting go of Ben Simmons without it being somebody that we can legitimately see being with us for a while. De'Aaron Fox is relatively young. Like he came in the same draft as Lonzo Ball, and I think, to be honest, at the time he was better than Lonzo Ball. And he probably still is right now. It's just that he plays in a small market and nobody ever watches the Sacramento Kings. But I would love to see what the trade rumors would look like for a Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine dings a lot of our wickets. I don't really care what we really got to get rid of to get him, really, as long as it's a package of Ben Simmons of some sort, because you get a longer defender as well, because I think he's 6'6", 6'6", 6'7". So you're not giving – you're giving away about 4 inches, but Zach LaVine can fill it up. And so I'm not mad about any of that, but I just can't get down with these guys like really not taking into consideration. Buddy Hield is a shooter, so if Buddy Hield isn't with De'Aaron Fox, I mean, we got Korkmaz. He's a better version of Korkmaz. I'll be honest, and he can get hot.
The Kings can put together a very nice package if they're really about getting Ben Simmons. Like if they're really about it, like my man said down there, De'Aaron Fox is a stud. I just checked his numbers for this season. Like you said, not a lot of people paying attention to the Kings. 25 points a game.
Let's go.
I mean, that's all I need to see. But no, I'm thinking about guys like you mentioned, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley Jr. could fill a role in this team. They got options there as far as what they could kind of package together, whether it's draft compensation. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not really interested in draft compensation unless you can flip that for, a quality role player, something, better. But I'm not really interested in kind of restarting. I see people are kind of clinging on to Maxey and Matisse, which you want to hold on to your young talent. I get that, but I don't think that we need to focus on making young talent the priority, right? That's not the priority here. Joel Embiid's window is the priority. But Phil, I'll toss it back to you if you just want to kind of comment where you're at with Ben Simmons, these rumors. How are you feeling?
Well, first off, I'll say that if we trade Ben Simmons, it's just move of one of 2 or 3 that's going to happen. If we trade Ben Simmons, there's going to be 2 or 3 big trades, whether we get draft compensation for him that we then move for other people, whether it's a 3-4 team complex deal. That's what's going to happen this offseason. But I don't want to trade Ben Simmons unless we're getting somebody that's ready to win now. Dame Lillard, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine. Joel Embiid's window is 2, maybe 3 years of max prime Joel Embiid left. You need to maximize it that somebody is ready right now. De'Aaron Fox might be this great player, but he's not ready to be in the NBA Finals right now, in my opinion. He's still got to evolve that game, grow up a little bit more. He hasn't even won 25 games in a season yet. I know the team sucks in Sacramento, and we don't watch Sacramento often. I watch Portland because I'm a huge Dame guy, so I'm a little biased on Dame. But I want guys that are ready now. And that's why I think it's going to be a big, complex 3-team, 4-team package, because I can see someone like Ben going to the Lakers because that's probably where he wants to play. But the Lakers have literally nothing for us personally. That's where the 3rd team and the 4th team comes into play, and you get this complex thing. I want people that are winning now because the East is our division for the next 2 years, in my opinion. You need to get a big-name guy right now.
I got a question for you guys. Did De'Aaron Fox ever play with Boogie, when he was actually good?
Mm-mm.
No.
Boogie got traded to the Warriors. Boogie got traded to the Warriors. The thing about De'Aaron Fox, and I know a lot of people don't know this, but like I said in that draft, he got shafted because, in all honesty, he should have been the number 1 or 2 pick, but he got shafted because they bigged up, Zoe. And that's fine. Zoe has improved his game, but De'Aaron Fox, his rookie year was a blazer. Yeah. It wasn't even close. And everybody was looking at that. Go ahead.
But I'm going to counter that, JD.
Go ahead.
Because every bad team has a guy that puts up stats.
Oh, yeah.
And
Bradley Beal.
Part of Fox's rookie year stats were because he was on a trash team. So I don't look at that as much. I look at the fact that team hasn't gotten better in, what's it been, 3 years now? And that's where I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox, is where has his game evolved and where has he helped carry his team? Dame has carried his team as far as he can. Portland, just like the Jazz, need to blow it up. He's the guy I want. Beal, Zach LaVine, guys that are going to win now with Joel and complement Joel. That's what you need. I don't want projects. And Fox is a project.
So the only reason I asked that about Fox and Boogie was just because, part of me still does feel I know we've always talked about the fit with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, but I do just wonder what point guards that haven't played with a post presence like that, kind of how they would adjust and maneuver their game, and pick their spots. Because it is weird. You know what I mean? It is a little bit hard to adjust to that, just coming down the court. Instead of you looking for your shot or looking to, drive in the lane and make a play, you're just going to dish it down there to Embiid or Tobias Harris, right? Like,
that's
mostly
actually
Embiid, let's be real. But
that's a really good point. And that supports Dame coming here in his, what's he going to be, 30 years old this year? Dame has already made his reputation. Dame has already made his money. Dame might be willing to take second fiddle to Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Fox is still trying to earn his rep in the NBA. He might fight that, passing it down. Look, I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying he might.
You just never know. Yeah.
If Joel Embiid was 24, 25, I'd be for Fox. But because of where Joel is in his career, I'm against Fox and Sexton. Gotcha.
And so, Dylan, I'll let you finish up here. And then I know you talked to me before the show.
Yeah, I got to get out after this.
You need to get out. Just go ahead and throw us your Suns Bucks prediction as well before you hop out.
All right. So, I agree with what both of you said. Phil, you too. I'm not trading Ben Simmons for a younger player that's not ready to win now. You have Joel Embiid. He's your best chance at a title. He's your greatest chance at a title that the city has seen in over 2 decades. You have to maximize that right now. You need to pair him with a star. The Brogdon trade that you referenced first, Scotty. Brogdon's a nice player. It's definitely a good, first offer for the summer. But like Phil said, draft compensation unless it's getting flipped. But in that case, you're getting Brogdon, so you wouldn't be flipping that one first rounder for anything else. The Kings rumors, they're interesting. JD, I know Buddy Hield is a shooter. De'Aaron Fox, I like De'Aaron Fox. I'm really not all that interested in Joel Embiid and the 3 Kingsmen. I'm really not. The Kings aren't a good team. Why do I want their 3 best players? I don't want Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and De'Aaron Fox. Yes, De'Aaron Fox would be the centerpiece, and he's going to be a very, very good player in this league. Issue with De'Aaron Fox is he still doesn't shoot the 3 ball all that well. So the 2-man game with him and Joel Embiid, Scotty, you were just talking about it. Well, that plays a factor into it. And trust me, we know all about points in the paint and 2-pointers. What's this league? What's the trend in this league right now? The 3 ball, right? Well, De'Aaron Fox doesn't push the needle all that much in terms like that. I agree. There are 3 guys that are on my radar right now. Dame Dollar is the first one. I would have done that whenever. You get Damian Lillard here. You pair him and Joel Embiid together as 2 stars. That 2-man game, that pick and roll. You have championship aspirations right then and there. 2 guys that I would have said no to for Ben Simmons a couple months ago, but I would say yes to now are the other 2, Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. And lastly, to Phil's point, we talked about it before the show. If those aren't the guys, you bring Ben Simmons back. Guys, what are we doing here? We're trying to win a championship, right? You only trade Ben Simmons if it pushes the Sixers closer to a championship, over that second round hump, closer to a title. You don't do that for Marvin Bagley, for D'Angelo Russell, for Colin Sexton and Kevin Love. Don't get me wrong. The packages are a little intriguing, but I gave them thumbs down as you were reading them off for a reason, Scotty. Colin Sexton, again, is a nice, younger, quick, smaller point guard, right?
Yeah.
Him and Kevin Love do not push you closer to a title over Ben Simmons. De'Aaron Fox at this stage in his career and Buddy Hield do not push you closer. D'Angelo Russell damn sure doesn't push you closer to a title. Whatever the rumor is, I haven't seen it, but the Kyle Lowry sign-and trade, that is so completely asinine. I can't even believe that's a rumor. That trading Ben Simmons for Kyle Lowry. If you add Kyle Lowry to the group, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
He's not a Ben Simmons trade. So that's it. You move Ben Simmons for one reason and one reason only, to push you closer to winning a title. If the description, if the trade doesn't fit that mold, you do not press the trigger. You run it back. I don't know how you run it back. You're depending on Ben to work on his game and improve, which is a story I really don't want to go through again. But you can't just trade him for pennies on the dollar. With that being said, I do have to jump out of here. So I'm going – Giannis is playing. So my initial prediction was if Giannis was missing the majority of this series or all series, I was going to say Suns in 5. Him playing, I still think it's Suns in 6. They have been playing too good to lose 4 times in 7 games. And just the story, I know it's not a storyline. It's not the WWE, right? But like when you think we're all Eagles fans here, well, JD's not, but you remember that story, that build up, right? That going into the Super Bowl back in 2017. Well, think about this. CP3 in his 16th year gets to his first title. The emotion between him and Monty Williams, like the story is just, it's building right up. And this just seems like the Suns year, the same as it was the Eagles year. So Suns in 6. And thank you for having me on, Scott.
Of course.
Boys, see you later.
Peace, Dylan. Thanks for hopping on, man. All right. Yeah. So
Can I
guess
this question to you, Scotty?
yeah, go ahead.
So you know how you gave us the possibility of what happens if we trade Ben Simmons for whatever. All right. So what if I don't know. I wrote it down. So whose window is actually larger? Is the window larger with Joel Embiid? Because we keep saying our time type, and I know. Watch this, and I don't want to say this, and don't trust me. I don't want to say this. I don't want to say that. Phil, don't look at me like this. I know
what you say. I know what you're about to say.
But why are we trying to fit all of our eggs into one basket that may only be a 1-year basket if Joel Embiid gets hurt bad enough? Like, have we thought about maybe that we're trying to win right now because we don't have any other choice because we put all our eggs in one basket? And while he still has value, why don't we just blow that part of it up? And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be negative. I don't want to be negative. Phil, I love you. I don't want to be negative.
I just don't want to. I have an opinion on this. I just don't want to. I know you asked Scotty, but I don't want my opinion said because I don't want to admit that I've agreed that this might be the actual right idea. Should I say that out loud?
I mean, I've been thinking about it. Like, I don't sleep a whole lot at night. You guys know I make videos and like looking through stats and like I coach basketball and I coach. So I'm always thinking, and I was like, man, like this would really suck if we put all this into Joel Embiid and he tears ACL next year and then he's washed. When we really have a player that can't shoot the ball, but that can be fixed. It's like
that's honestly, JD, if you would have asked me that maybe like a year ago or even a year and a half, 2 years ago, I probably would have agreed with you because I was really high on Ben Simmons. And, part of me still is, but part of me feels like, okay, like I can't like run myself into a brick wall again, like with this guy. Like I can't like fully invest in this guy, period, because he's not even investing in himself. Like that's my problem with that is like Joel Embiid at least gives me the feeling that he wants this and that he wants a championship for Philadelphia. He lets us know that he loves us. Like he has taken our criticism and turned it into his success. Whereas Ben Simmons has kind of crippled him. Like, I don't want to say he's crippled himself. He's been crippled like with his offensive production. So as far as Ben Simmons, like, yeah, I get you. He's younger. He's more athletic. He's in better shape. Not as extensive injury history, but I don't know. I guess it is how you view Joel Embiid, and I get it. This is a guy that has played I think it's around like 68% of his games or something like that. I get it, and it's part of that window. If you don't feel that Joel Embiid can take you to that championship level, then yeah, you sell on that window, and you sell at its highest point, which would be, I believe, right now. With that being said, I think Joel Embiid is a piece. I think he is a superstar that can take you to that championship level, and I think he can be that 1B, 1A guy on a team. Whereas Ben Simmons, I don't feel that way. I think he's a third guy at best. Even if he figures out, how to shoot or when to shoot, he's a third guy at best to me because scoring is not natural for him and it never will be. And like, that's what kind of kills me. Like watching him, kind of go through his rookie season in the summer league. We've seen these videos, we see him in the gym and it's like, it looks so fluid, but like, I put it this way, because the other night I play in this summer league, this basketball league, right? And so I missed 2 free throws the other day, like 2 in a row. It was my only 2 free throws of the night. And so on the way home, I'm like, man, it's just a summer league game, but I should go get some shots up like before the next game, make sure that I don't do that again. Make sure that I don't embarrass myself. Like for me, it's embarrassing. And for me, I hold myself to a certain level when I do certain things. So like me exiting a game 7 game with 5 points is not an option to me. And so, like, when I look at that type of response from Ben Simmons, it just really makes me question what type of person he is and how bad he wants it. Because to me, it looks like somebody who got paid the max contract is living the max athlete, professional athlete life, but isn't put in the performance on the actual court or the field. And to me, when you have somebody like that's a big issue, and it's between the ears. And maybe he can flip a switch. We've been saying this for years, though, right? Maybe he can flip a switch. Maybe he'll start shooting. I can't go down that barrel again. Joel Embiid, I've seen make the improvements, so I'm gonna ride with Embiid. But I get it. It's the same thing with like selling Maxey, selling Matisse Thybulle when they're so young and so much potential there. And it's like, does that fit Joel Embiid? Should we abide to Joel Embiid? There is a line that you have to draw when you are talking about Embiid's window there. So that's kind of what I would leave it at. Overall, I'm agreeing with you guys. Like, if you can't get Dame Lillard, Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal, you're not going to feel comfortable after this trade, right? Like, you may be like, oh, I can see the positives of this player and adding him and putting him in this spot, but you're not going to feel like you won the trade. Because the team that gets the best player is the one that won the trade. And that it's as simple as that. And when you're looking at like a De'Aaron Fox, I agree with you guys. Like Colin Sexton, I think Ben Simmons is better than those guys. I do. And you're never going to win a trade where you don't get the best player in return. And that's like a rule of thumb in the NBA, right? Like, so I agree. I think you have to go out and get LaVine, Beal, or Dame. That's the only way you feel comfortable trading Ben Simmons in reality. Because as much as I slander Ben, there is that one part of me that, like, I know basketball and I know what I'm looking at when I see it. And Ben Simmons has most of the tools. It doesn't take a lot.
That's the key. I know you were going to say something, Jay. Like, what is, like, you take everything into account. What was Joel Embiid's ceiling? One of the greatest centers of all time, right?
What
was Ben Simmons' ceiling? Potentially one of the best players of all time if he figured out even a half a shot. So Ben Simmons' ceiling when he first came into this league was a little bit higher, in my opinion, than Joel's.
Yeah.
But he hasn't worked on it to make it better. And that's the problem.
And I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and I don't want to be devil's advocate. So I'm just note I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm just telling you guys. It's just, for me, I've been around a lot of teams that have made bad decisions about getting rid of players and stuff like that. And I'm just not one to sell. I'm a Clemson football fan. So I was around when Clemson got beat by West Virginia 73-7. And they were like, get rid of Dabo. And they were throwing tomatoes at his house. So I've been around to see a lot of this stuff. My high school team one time tried to get rid of the coach in the middle of the season. I just believe it's bad juju. And I've always been the one to like let somebody work it out to stick around. Giving away somebody at their lowest value does nothing for you except for make you the fool of a trade. I don't care about the fan base. I know everybody's going to be mad at me for saying that. I don't care about you 76ers fans because I'm one of them. You're still going to buy the tickets. You're still going to go. You're still going to do all this stuff. You're still going to eat crow when they play bad because you don't have any other choice. But I'm not giving away a guy that could potentially go to the Lakers. And let's humor me for a minute. Let's say he goes to the freaking Lakers. He goes to the Lakers, and the Lakers become a shoo-in for multiple championships. You turn them into the Lakers with Kobe, Shaq, and Robert Horry, basically. Well, not really in the same sense, but just in theory.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Or with Lamar, like where Lamar Odom and Paul Gasol and Kobe. Like, you do that because you give them three players that can really get to a bucket. Now, LeBron can speak some life into Ben because he's used to the criticism. And I would love that to see that happen to Ben, but I don't want Ben to be getting 6 and 7 rings, at my account. And when my team is barely making the playoffs, and then we stick with like Embiid and he loses a toe or something, or a big toe because he's 7 foot tall and like 300 freaking pounds. And then we stuck with this big dud and we paying him all this money. Like, that's my worst fear. I wake up in a cold sweat.
I feel that.
I don't want to do that. I just at least give him a year. If he says he's working on it and they're going to give him somebody to help him, give him a year. He's not dealing with his family. And just imagine, like, think about it at your job. When people work these crappy jobs, a lot of what's crazy is People will work these crazy jobs and they'll be like, oh, well, why does so-and-so feel like they can do this at my job? It's because somebody telling them what they're doing is okay. His family was telling him, it's okay, Ben. You only need to score 2.5 points, even though you're 6'10" and second biggest player on the team. Like, you only need to do that. That's fine. Like, you get money. Like, imagine if somebody was to tell him he was buns that wasn't on the media.
Jeez, man. But let me toss this to you, and I won't take credit for this question. After this, we'll spend 5 minutes because we don't got much time left here.
I think
spend like 5 minutes. We'll spend like 5 minutes.
You did say the show's going to go like 30, 35 minutes.
And it was supposed to be finals preview, and here I brought in the elephant in the room, Ben Simmons, man. But no, I'll toss this question to you. I won't take credit for it because it was Big T Will that actually asked me this question when he joined my show. If Ben Simmons comes out next season, first couple games of the season, he comes down, shoots a jumper, cashes it, misses it, whatever, comes down, shoots another jumper, comes down, hits a three, gets the crowd fully bought back in. Philadelphia's riding him again. They're all, jumping for joy. Ben's shooting. He's scoring 20 points. Like, they're all excited. Do you still trade Ben Simmons right there when he has brought his value back up? Because now
I'm gonna leave it to Phil. I'm gonna say my answer.
Let's say before he brought his value back up, you didn't have a shot at a guy like Beal or a guy like Levine or a guy like Dame. Now he's brought his value.
You're talking about a small window.
Yeah,
in a single game versus an opponent. When you're playing a team in a 7-game series, you need a much bigger sample size, and even 10 games of the season of seeing Ben being aggressive. All of a sudden, it's when the teams that are playing, all of a sudden, all right, so he's going to shoot a few little jump shots. Let's adjust to him defensively. How does that he then readjust to the adjustments the league makes to him? So yeah. I'm not willing. I want to win a title. And every sports team in Philadelphia, I make all my decisions around titles. I want titles. I'm 41 years old almost, and I've only have a very, very, very few amount of titles in my lifetime. Most I don't even remember, okay? So I want titles. So I am trading Ben Simmons at his max value, at his lowest value, because I think that's the way you get to a title. So you bring him back, you trade him if he makes one shot. He makes one 3-point shot on his first game. Get rid of him.
All right. This is the same story, a different year. We watched him. I don't know if you guys remember this. Right before the trade deadline, dude was balling. He had a 40-point game.
Yep.
When it's like right when they got him up under the thumb, like right here, I'm gonna get up on it. And then they got him like right here. He does something, and we're like, oh, wait a minute. No, don't push him yet. Don't push him. Because we know what he could be. That's the thing. Like, that's what kills us about Ben Simmons. We know what he could be. Yeah. And it's never anything he's actually said or really even done at this point. It's just that we believe that because he's 6'10", he's a point guard, he's versatile. He can't shoot. He can't hit the wide side of a barn if he was sitting beside it, but we still believe in him. And we believed in him. But when we drafted him, it's not like he had all this film on him from like LSU. He played like 4 games at LSU. Like, what were we thinking? Like,
expectations and comparisons. I mean, we talked about
I saw a comparison. Is Ben Simmons really just a point guard version of Dennis Rodman?
And if he is, oh well.
But you kind of need to trade that if that's what he is then to a team that's going to utilize that skill set and not pair him with Joel Embiid. That's all.
All I'm saying is the FOMO is real. If this dude goes somewhere like the Lakers and they build him up and he has a vengeance against the Sixers for the rest of his career, I want you all to know that I said it today. You guys are all losers. If you're watching this, this to us.
We'll definitely be eating our words if that happens. Like everybody in Philadelphia, it always happens.
Everybody knows I eat my words all the time. I'm wrong all the freaking time on Twitter. So
it always happens, man.
So, I don't mind admitting it.
Guys, we're coming up on an hour here, so we got about 6 minutes left. Let's actually dive into the NBA Finals a little bit here. Really just wanted to ask you guys a few questions, obviously get your predictions. So first thing I wanted to ask, and maybe this is a dumb question, maybe it isn't. Is this championship bigger for Giannis's legacy? As you know, I've seen this comparison. This championship could lock him in as a top 20 player all time. Chris Paul's legacy as a top point guard. Some people call him the GOAT of point guards. Who's it bigger for? JD, I know your answer, so I'm going to let Phil go first.
Well, see, I don't know his answer, so now I might steal his answer. I don't know.
You please steal it. If you steal it, then I got another one.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's bigger this season for Chris Paul because he's 36 years old. You know, how many more years do we have? I said this before this year. I didn't want the Sixers getting Chris Paul because who wants a 36-year-old point guard? Eventually, you're going to hit a wall, and eventually that decline is going to come. Giannis is how old? He's 25, 26. You know, he's still got 10, 12 years of peak Giannis to prove that he is a superstar and a top 20 player. So, and he's actually, if you look at his numbers, he has actually gotten better or more aggressive throughout his career. He's worked on his game. He's gotten better. So this is bigger for Chris Paul. If Chris Paul wants to be the greatest point guard of all time, he needs a title in my book.
Yeah.
You're making this very difficult on me, man. I'm just going to be honest.
You want Chris Paul too?
Yeah,
I'm going to take Chris.
Because the flip side of this question is, like, if we answer Chris Paul needs it the most, then that kind of means, like, does this make or break his career or his status as a legend? You know what I mean?
It doesn't make it break his career as a great point guard of all time, but it make or breaks his being number one over time. You know, I get into it all the time with Chris Jenkins, Villanova, you know, standout from the championship season, and he thinks that Chris Paul's already the number one point guard.
I mean,
of all time. And
listen,
I think he's 1, 2, 3, somewhere in that range because he doesn't have that chip.
And I will go ahead and I will submit and say it does matter for that very reason. But I will add a caveat to that. If Chris Paul can win a championship, the narrative about Chris Paul changes from all those years at the Clippers and he can't win and he's the problem. No, he went to OK. You told him his career was over. He went to OKC. You left him there. That's where people go to die is OKC. So they sent him there to die. He didn't die. And then on top of it, it does separate him from Nash and Stockton. It does.
Stockton doesn't have the chip either. So
no,
it separates him from Nash.
Yeah, but does Nash have one?
I think Nash has one.
Yeah, they won back-to-back titles with the Phoenix. Or with,
he won back-to-back MVPs.
He won back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, Nash ain't got no title.
Championship.
Yeah,
So
Nash
it would separate them because he would be the only one of the three that doesn't have a ring.
Okay.
Especially if he gets MVP. Like if he gets finals MVP, which I'm assuming if they win, he would probably end up getting him or Book.
Yeah.
I just want to be honest about it. If Chris Paul can win one, it will cement him as the number one point guard because he's done it on different levels. He's done it when they left him to die. He still got that team to, I think, a playoff almost. If they didn't get in there, well, almost there. And I would like to say this about Giannis. Giannis is 26 years old. The East isn't getting any easier. Yeah. So, to be honest, it's big for both of them because
his best shot.
Yeah, because next year the Nets will be back full power, and they'll have a vengeance. The Sixers are going to try to get better. The Knicks, they have a chip on their shoulder now, and now we have woken up the Hawks, and now the Hawks might be a problem. Like John Collins is a problem. If they re-sign him to a big deal, then Magic. That's true. Magic is number one. I forgot about him a little bit, but Magic is still number one. But I think at the end of the day, if
true point guard frame like Chris Paul, smallest guy,
because technically LeBron is a point guard too in theory.
Yeah, James Harden. I mean, I know what you mean.
These are bigger guards, so it makes things a lot harder. I mean, a lot easier when you can see over everybody. Like Chris Paul is legitimately finding a needle in a haystack a lot of times, and
he's very polished.
But yeah, Giannis has to win. I think Giannis, in order to start his legacy, he does need to win this one because it's going to get harder and harder.
Let me ask y'all another question here, and we haven't mentioned him yet, but DeAndre Ayton.
I was going to save him for my finals prediction, but I can bring him up now.
Well, what I was going to ask is there any chance that, a hobbled Giannis, that DeAndre Ayton can maybe outplay Giannis in this series?
Giannis is one of the 2 or 3 X factors in this series, in my opinion, because we talked about stars becoming superstars. No one considered Ayton even a star. He has played out of the lower level guys in the playoffs. He hasn't played up to a number 1 overall pick status that he had, but people pretty much already labeled him a bust. And after watching these playoffs, would you write him as a bust anymore?
Hell
No. I mean, the guy has done people reach for big men in the NBA just like they reach for quarterbacks in the NFL. Everybody wants that next big man that's going to dominate. And Ayton, got obviously taken way higher in the draft than he should have at number 1. But on the flip side of the equation, now that he's developing into his body, he's filling out a little bit. The dude can play ball. He is literally the new NBA. Like, he's doing a great job as that third, fourth option, getting rebounds, playing defense, clogging the lane, doing the things true big men do. And no one on the Bucks can stop Ayton. Nobody. Or out rebound him, play better defense. That's what I mean on outplay him and all.
I agree.
I think he is literally the X factor of this playoffs or finals.
I'm not gonna echo that. I believe that I do believe that's true though, Phil. I'm gonna say that is true. What I would like to throw out there is there's a player that comes off the bench. He doesn't do a lot of scoring for Phoenix. He's also one of my favorite players because he's from South Carolina as well. And he's Torrey Craig. Torrey Craig comes in, he plays a lot of he's scrappy. He gets a lot of nasty rebounds. He's kind of like a PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
But he can shoot better. He shoots a little better than PJ. So, to me personally, for this series, the X factor that I have for both teams are 2 South Carolina guys. Both, Middleton, he's a dog from SC, and my second one is Torrey Craig. If Torrey Craig can make his impact known, he might be a problem going forward. And
can I counter that? So I kind of feel like what you're saying is why I think the Suns win this series.
Oh yeah,
it's not because of the top 2 guys on each team. It's because of guy 3, 5, 7. The Suns bench or role players play their role better and are overall better. I mean, outside of Giannis, if he was 100% healthy, Middleton and Drew Holiday, the rest of the Bucks. I mean, nobody talks about losing Dante DiVincenzo, their 4th or 5th best option. That has made the Hawks a totally different, or the Bucks a totally different team.
Yeah.
The Suns back end guys will play a difference maker and are better than the Bucks back end guys. I mean, Pat Connaughton isn't going to carry, a 5-minute stretch for the Bucks. Brian Ford, these guys, they're not good enough for the moment they're being put in.
But one thing I would say about that is that Coach Budenholzer is not afraid to play 6 to 7 guys and not bring those guys off the bench.
And that's where, though, the loss of DiVincenzo,
it could end them winning, or it could come back to bite them as well if those guys get tired down the stretch.
You just can't do that against Phoenix. They have too many players. They can't do that. Like, that works against Atlanta. That works against, guys that are already banged up, but not against it. This Phoenix team is healthy.
The next, and this is kind of just the last caveat question, type of thing here. Middleton versus Devin Booker. Is there any chance that Chris Middleton, I know you mentioned that he's kind of your X factor there, JD. Is there any world where Chris Middleton outplays Devin Booker in this final series?
Oh, yeah, very much, because Middleton is asked to do more at certain moments than Booker is. Booker can get to a bucket, but Middleton needs to when Giannis goes through these dry spells, which I'm sure will happen. And now Giannis is banged up. So I'm looking forward to Middleton having a breakout series. Because if he doesn't, they're at home. It could be a sweep. If Middleton doesn't show up ready to play.
If he chokes, it's a wrap.
Because I don't think Drew can carry them.
See, and this is where I think this is an interesting point here. So if Chris Paul wasn't on the Suns, would the Suns even be in the playoffs with Booker as their lead? If Giannis wasn't on the Bucks, would Middleton have at least gotten the Bucks to the playoffs?
Yeah,
with the rest of the team around them, and that's where Booker. Obviously, I say everybody's got to take that next step to superstardom and all. And Booker has played great. I'm not trying to take anything away from Booker, but Booker has taken his game to the next level because of Chris Paul. Middleton has done it when Giannis has missed games. Booker has not done it when CP3 has missed games. So I agree with you 100%. Middleton is important, more so than Booker. But I don't know. Booker's got that CP3 and that 36-year-old veteran, one of the greatest of all time, making his game better.
Yeah, that's very true.
He's definitely taking a lot of pressure, and he's got campaign coming in to push in the tempo and stuff. So
And they got Dario Saric on their bench, so homie. I would look for any team with the homie on it. Any team with the homie.
I'll toss this last one to you guys. Obviously, we got to get the official predictions in here. Series and then game one specifically. Whoever wants to go first here. We've been picking sides all night, so whoever wants to jump in here. Series prediction and then game one prediction, and then maybe a few keys that you just wanted to point out, especially in game one.
I mean, you want me to go first?
I don't really have many keys because I think I've put them all out there. I think the Suns are a deeper team. I'll say this. I have like 4 or 5 boxes in my shed. And from when I was a kid, I have a Charles Barkley Phoenix Suns jersey buried somewhere. And I dug for hours looking for it. I couldn't find it. But I wanted to wear it because I'm going Suns. And I am going Suns in 6 because plain and simple, they're a deeper team. And they got Chris Paul on it, a Hall of Famer, first ballot. So that is what puts the X factor. And like I said, DeAndre Ayton, his coming out party in the next 7 games or 6 games, whatever it takes.
All right. This is my shining moment. All right. So I called the Suns at the beginning of the season. I'm going to stick with the Suns at the end of the season because I do believe that Chris Paul, this is his swan song. I do believe that he will get the chip. I think it will probably happen in about 5 games. And I think that Giannis being banged up is going to leave them extremely vulnerable to the way that Monty Williams coaches because he just doesn't stop. He's relentless. And if they've run through the NBA playoffs so far, I don't see that stopping with Milwaukee, especially with a banged up Giannis. He's kind of the cornerstone of that team. And I think Monty Williams makes life hard for Middleton to a point where if he has a bad game, they get absolutely annihilated. And that's not taking anything against Milwaukee, but I will say that Torrey Craig should get a ring no matter what because he started the season out with the Bucks and he ended up with the Suns and he's in the championship, so he would have been there no matter what. So I believe he should just get one. Just give him one.
Yeah, he actually does. No matter what, he gets a ring. Even if the Bucks win, he still gets one.
Shut up!
I swear. Yeah, I did see. I think it was Stat Muse that put that out, but yeah, he will get a ring. So I'm gonna go against the grain here. I don't know. I just feel like the Bucks are getting counted out, man. And when I see that, obviously it's the underdog mentality in me that I just want to see the underdog win. It is a great story with the Suns, and you could call them the underdog in a certain sense. But I think how the playoffs have kind of carried out and played out, I think they are the favorite here, and they are the favorite on the sports books. But I'm rooting for the Bucks. I do think the Bucks can beat them. I would call it a toss-up at this point with Giannis being, kind of iffy. He's playing, but is he playing, like Giannis? But my one caveat to that would be that is that better for the Bucks when you're not using Giannis as your go-to offensive weapon down the stretch? We've seen it this season. Budenholzer has kind of adjusted to kind of giving the reins to Drew Holiday at the end of the games, giving it to Chris Middleton at the end of games. And I think it's worked out for them. They made it to the finals. So it could either go very, very south, or it could turn out to be the key for the Bucks is just having somebody who does have a nice jump shot, can score from outside of the paint, and kind of Giannis just being there as kind of a second fiddle almost. I think that could play out in their favor. Drew Holiday, I think, creates matchup issues. So I'm not sure what way the Suns are going to address that, because the thing about Drew Holiday is he's not afraid to take a point guard to the post. And if you're going to put Chris Paul and Drew Holiday, he's going to take him down to the post, and he's going to try to body him up. He's going to try to abuse him. So overall, I can't disagree with what you guys are saying. The Suns have earned the respect, and I respect them. Chris Paul, his resume speaks for itself. Devin Booker, I talked about him earlier. He's a superstar. It's going to come down to the matchups, right? If Giannis or Brook Lopez is out there getting abused by DeAndre Ayton, they're not going to win, right? But the Bucks do have guys down there in the paint that they can throw at Ayton, that they can put in the middle of that defense, in the middle of that offense as well. We saw him against the Hawks, kind of abuse them in the paint with Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. So it will be interesting. I do think the Suns have probably 1 to 3 more better role players than the Bucks. With Giannis playing, that does shorten the rotation a little bit, so you probably won't see as much of a Bobby Portis, as much of a PJ Tucker. So it'll be interesting regardless. I got the Bucks in 7. And I'm going to ride with it. I love Drew Holiday. I talked to you guys about that before the show. I got a lot of love for that guy. Obviously started here in Philly. A guy that I wish we could have brought back at some point with this new regimen, new regime with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. I think he would have been a great addition, but happy for him. Happy for both of these fan bases. Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, both of these fan bases have been waiting forever for this. We know this Phil from the Eagles, and even at this point the Sixers too. You know what I mean? Like it's been a while. So good for the Suns fans. Great for the Bucks fans as well. Wish the best of luck to everybody. And what I will end the show on, prayers that everybody just stays healthy. That Giannis doesn't aggravate the injury, that he can stay in the game. We can get to see the full scope of each team at their best. And may the best team win, right? That's kind of where I'll leave it at tonight, guys. Everybody that tuned in tonight, thank you so much. Obviously, we love when you guys get on here, interact with us, comment. Definitely went a little over. A lot over.
So much for a 35-minute show.
The goddamn game at this point, but that's because we love putting out the content. That's what it's all about. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, JD. Thank you to Dylan for joining my show as always. As we always say here, make sure that you're subscribing to the DSM YouTube channel. Make sure you're following DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media. And of course, be sure to follow my co-hosts here. My man Phil at Beard of Knowledge, and of course my man JD Oracle at JD_DDS. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Got a lovely outro video for you guys, so we'll get to debut this. Guys, thank you for joining once again. That's going to be it for Scotty here. Peace.
Mm-hmm.